Okay, guys. Well, I asked DV if we can use his book to do some demo work on it. He said no problem. Okay. Yeah, this is a continuation on the David Vizard, Brezezinski, Manifold. And the question was, what was your logic and so forth doing those modifications on that manifold? What are you trying to gain? Okay, well, single plane layout, dual plane layout. You can actually see is an H on top of an H, right? This small block Ford manifold shows it. It's really a twisted path for a small block Ford because of the way the intake ports are. They're all the same. Chevys, they're opposite intake ports, so they get to put them closer together, right? Your intake ports are closer in length. If you take a look at, not so much this, the way they do their dual plane, they're relatively close in length on a Ford, right? If you do it that way. But if you see their single planes, forget it. The intake runners are 4 shorts, 4 longs. Okay, good luck getting your the same amount of fuel to each cylinder. That's going to be a battle. Okay, so I know why the engineers originally did this with the intake ports that are not Siamese, but mirror image on the Chevy. Okay, that way they get everything very close together. Now, make sure you can see in this picture. It's not exactly the same as this manifold, but we're going to go from this picture to a picture I drew. Okay? Let's see if we can get this in here. Okay. Not the scale. It's not painted, whatever, you know. It's for demo purposes, guys. Okay? Upper plenum, lower plenum. Black arrows are upper plenum, the way it goes to those. Upper plenum goes to 2, 3, 5, and 8, right? Lower plenum goes to 1, 4, 6, and 7. Sorry, I'm moving around too much. I can't. I'm doing the best I can. Okay, so this is laid out just the way the manifold is laid out, right? We're going to go to the manifold itself. Now, if you can see, you can't see, you're going to have to imagine, okay? This runner actually curves like this. So it's relatively in the center of these 2 branches. So they're relatively even in length. But what do you notice about this one here? See if we go back to this. See how sharp that corner is? And I drew it like that to show you. It's not aerodynamic at all. It's a very hard corner. Is it as bad as this small block Ford corner? No, that's really steep. It's way more than a 90, right? This is more than a 90 as well. She's coming down this way, and it's got to turn and go in. So, what needs to be done to make that more aerodynamic? Hold on, let's grab that that Holly. Okay, the Holly is a more modern design, okay? You can see the upper H. This branch isn't straight anymore, right? They took this and they curved it towards the plenum. This runner is curved towards the plenum. A really good manifold will even have a kick out on this side, okay? To give it more of a turn to go through the runner. This is what's considered a medium riser intake. They say it's good for 5,500. In reality, you can get more than that out of it if you do a little work to them. Okay? My brain is going off task. I'm going to cut plenums and stuff in my brain. Let's not do that. Let's stick to what we're talking about. Okay, so the logic was take the branch that's straight like this and make it more like this. Well, how do you do that? And how do you do it keeping the outside exactly the way it looks? Well, Okay, see if I can do this and hold it at the same time. This is just about the center of this. This is coming out of the plenum like so, right? So right about in the center here, this has got weld like this. Okay, what does that do? Well, it gives it more of a turn like this, a smoother turn into the runner. Okay? Now, I don't know if you can be able to see on the inside, but there it is. Let's see if we can zoom in on it. Come on, autofocus. There you go. It really doesn't look that bad from this angle, right? Okay. Same, zoom out. Same idea on this end. In fact, you can see I've got the magic marker already written on this one. Right? I've already got the magic marker written on this one. This is the same idea. Let's see if that one looks as good or we can even see it. It's tough to see. But it's in there. Right? Okay. Now, so we're coming out and we're going down, or we're coming out this way and going down. Well, the original curve on this was like this. Okay? This has all been filled with weld. Why has it been filled with weld? So we can get a decent radius there. Plus, this is relatively narrow. This has had weld put in. This has had weld put in here as well. So this can get moved over. Remember, this has had a hole, like a 2 1/4 inch hole, drilled out of the center. So you can put the weld in, right? Move that wall over and grind that back so you can get more of a radius. This side, same thing. Add some weld, change the radius. What you're trying to do is make a smoother path to each runner. Okay? This one here, this has had a huge amount of weld added right here. It doesn't look like it. In fact, it doesn't look like anything. It looks like a dirty manifold. Well, it's supposed to look like a dirty manifold. Why is it supposed to look like a dirty manifold? Because you want to take money from guys that don't know any better. That's why. Because you're that kind of guy. You like to race guys with stuff that looks like junk that runs way faster than the high dollar stuff that they bought. The difference between buying horsepower and making horsepower, okay? Oh, you know what else we forgot? I've got more in the book. Hold on a sec. Here we go. Now this was the original idea, okay? This is in DV's book, Performance with Economy. It's early 80s book, probably one of the first ones I've got of DV's. And you can see he's got a cast iron quadrajet. He modifies the plenum just by taking out the 4 holes. You get a nice boost in CFM. In fact, on my other phone, I went through a bunch of old threads I did on Speed Talk where I modified an aluminum quadrajet, but not as radically as this one here. And I actually have those flow figures. Oh, and some pictures even. If you want to, we can take it off my other phone. I got that up. But take a look at this. Off task a little bit. Here, you can see it a little bit better here, right? How he's got it machined out the plenum. I don't think there's any more on the next page. No, but there is more. See, this doesn't go over changing, drilling the holes and doing the radiuses. But that is on Brezezinski's website. Their website is actually pretty good. He's got a lot of stuff on his website, and they show you exactly what they do. They even do this to cast iron manifolds. So, and if anyone has ever welded cast iron, welding cast iron is not a lot of fun. You have to preheat it, right? You have to use a nickel rod. You have to let it cool over a very, very long period of time. It really needs to be peened as it's cooling. It's a pain. It's a real pain to weld cast iron. Ask me how I know. Okay, it took a minute and I drew out what's on the bottom. I don't want to take this plate off because I remember about these pins. Whenever you pull those pins out, they always seem to bend a little bit. And I'm not messing with it on this. But I do want to show you that the exact same thing is done on the lower H as well. Okay? You got to drill a hole in it. You got to weld your radius in.
So this is once we get.
Okay, sorry, I was interrupted by my daughter. But this actually is a pretty cool graph that DV wrote up here. Yeah, single plane, dual plane. That's an old design intake manifold with very, very tiny runners. That's an economy manifold. Absolutely terrible. Stay away from them. Holley Z manifold. This is the Z. It's got a Helmholtz runner between the back. Stay away from it. Terrible manifold. Edelbrock Streetmaster. Ancient history. It is a very small single plane. Stay away from it. Terrible manifold. Typical stock 180. Notice it's better than these three. Okay. Reworked stock 180. He gets a decent amount of RPM game. And remember, he only worked the plenum on this, and maybe the runners a bit. He didn't do the dividers and so forth. So, and of course, once you go into the Holley Street Dominator, that's a different Street Dominator than what I'm running than this one. They've used the name Street Dominator for 3 or 4 different manifolds, Holley. Okay. Yeah, this is the old style Street Dominator. Here. Single plane, but those X manifolds like that, never a fan of those. Okay, Edelbrock Victor Jr., that's a little bit different story. That's more modern. It's still 30 years plus old. I mean, that one I bought in the early 90s for that when I was building the 383 for it. So that's a Victor Jr. tall, right? It comes cast with an inch extra height, which I would never get again because it makes it an absolute bear to port. And a lot of the porting that's in there is 1992 or whenever I bought it. But I also used to run it with a 2-inch spacer on top with a Holley fuel injection on top of it. And because the Holley fuel injection throttle body, right, the droplets can be large, that extra height and the large plenum volume really works together. If you have a handle on your wet flow, which I do because, you know, I use the rougher texture helps a lot with the keeping the fuel atomized. They'll run really well. Alright, this is going to be a little tough to do, but I think somebody might be interested in this, okay? A long time ago I did an experiment on Speed Talk. I wanted to see if I could basically take the worst Chevy head and make it better than a Vortec bow tie. Oh, come on. So what I did is I found in my junk pile, I had some 450 heads, which is a 305 casting. Terrible, right? And I worked it up, and I was able to squeeze out about 245 CFM out of it, which beats Vortec bow tie by a good margin, right? Okay, this is completely stock EGR quadrajet. I didn't have a carb at that point that would fit it, so I tested it and it went from 245 cylinder head down to 160, I think it was. This may be hard for you guys to see, but I think it went 167. Okay. And then I was able to borrow a carburetor, and it went down even further, like 163 at 600. Okay, and I took some pictures of what it looked like and what you need to do to it to make it start working. I mean, the plenum needs a huge amount of work. And even after that, I think the best I could get out of it was like 175. So, as terrible as that is, that does give you an idea of how much better this is, though. I mean, true, I was also flowing it on a head that flows 20 CFM better, right? Well, if you take 175 and add 20 CFM to it, 195. These are 220s. So that gives you an idea, not exactly apples to apples, but it gives you an idea what the extra work that went into these would be worth as far as extra airflow. The other thing that's interesting is this plate has been modified to put a Holly on it, so you don't have to run a quadrajet. But what I do like about it is nobody gives it a second look underneath the hood. Now I'm thinking maybe in my spare time I'm going to do a little more work to that and see how even the runners are and see what I can do with that. Okay, I should add that if you go on Brezezinski's website, that's where this heat shield idea came from. You can see he's got the same thing. He's got just sheet metal welded to the pan, right? And they actually show you, with hole sawing the holes and so forth to get in there and modify everything. Now, I don't know if they actually do add the dividers in the cast iron. I would love to see one of those Brezenskis firsthand. And you know what, guys? I wanted to say something. So far, the guys that have been watching this channel have been really great. Almost no negatives. If you want to hit me up with a negative, not a problem. Please use your name. I want to know who's saying something nasty. If there's something I can improve, and I know there's plenty I can improve on, let me know. If I ever state anything that is wrong, I need you to bring it to my attention. I am not that guy. I do not want to ever spread wrong information. That's not what I'm doing, as far as I'm concerned. I am sure there are guys that haven't been doing this stuff nearly as long as me. In fact, it was kind of funny because DV and I were talking last night when I got permission to use his book, and he asked me, he's like, "How long have you been doing this stuff, Charlie?" I was like, "Well, I mean, I think my first V8, I started when I was about 14 building engines. My dad bought me a Willys Jeep, 59 Willys Jeep, and it was a very good idea. He spent $400 on this Jeep, and it literally kept me busy for years." Right? Building the engine, redoing the electrical system, learn how to do body work, learn about the brakes. I redesigned the braking system, and then I changed the braking system again. And by the time I was done, I could stop that thing so hard it would only stop on the front tires because the rear tires were off the ground. Okay? So it was a great idea by my father to keep me busy and keep me out of trouble for years. Little Savidio parenting right there. Interesting, right? But as far as engines and porting and so forth, in all those years, I mean, the first engine I ever built was a 307. It's the only engine I can think of that I didn't port the heads. And I remember cleaning up the heads and looking at the sharp edges and so forth in the bowls, that they have stock. And I'm going, man, I would really like to fix that big sharp edge. I don't think that sharp. And I can hear my mind, it was saying this. And my dad's like, wire brush it, clean it, put it back together. And that's basically what I did. But that was the last engine I did like that. The next engine after that, I actually put in my dad's 69 Longhorn pickup, and that had, balanced forged pistons. I worked over the rods. I ported the heads. Was it the best porting job ever? No, but it went 6,500 RPM without a problem, which is kind of funny because I remember what I did. I didn't buy valve springs, but what I did is I used exhaust rotators on every spring to boost up the spring pressure. It was a learning curve, but it ran for years, that engine, and didn't have any problems. Okay, I'm on a tangent. Thanks, guys. So, to finish my DV story, I was telling him that I've been literally porting heads since I was maybe 16 years old. I was still in high school. I'm 56. That's 40 years, guys. Have I been doing it full time? No. I never did it full time. Dad did not want me to be a mechanic type of person. He said I should get into the electrical field, so that's what I went into. But that didn't mean I didn't go home every night and work on engines and cylinder heads and all kinds of nuts, crazy stuff every single night, which I still do to this day. I do electrical during the day, I come home and I do my engine stuff. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you.